Today, we'll recap the movie called The Unforgivable. After serving 20 years in jail for the murder of a sheriff who came to remove Ruth Slater and her 5-year-old sister Katie from their childhood home after their father passed away and their mother passed away in childbirth, Ruth Slater is now free. After being freed, Ruth meets her parole officer Vince Cross and starts working 2 jobs at once while also looking for her estranged younger sister. Although Katie, who is currently residing with her adoptive family, hardly recalls Ruth, she still has traumatic recollections. Due to the automobile accident Katie had as a result of these memories, she is compelled to stay with her adoptive parents while she recovers. Katie's parents are concerned that the accident was brought on by Katie's memories of Ruth and the possibility that she was aware of Ruth's release. They both concur that keeping Katie's past secrets for her own good was the proper decision. They feel that a sister who has been found guilty of murder has nothing to give her. Ruth's killer's eldest son, Keith, learns of her parole and starts pursuing her, finding out where she resides and works. Keith is the sheriff Ruth killed, and he killed Ruth. In spite of his younger brother Steve's objections and repeated requests for Keith to leave it alone, Keith is adamant about planning his retaliation. Steve already has a family of his own. Ruth gets a mysterious phone call while she's in the group home. Ruth answers by hanging up the phone when the person on the other end of the line calls her a police killer. Ruth returns to her room to discover one of her roommates violating the no-stealing rule by searching through her possessions for unidentified objects. The roommate is attacked by Ruth, who forces her to leave. Ruth is shocked to find her old house completely rebuilt when she eventually goes back there. She meets John and Liz Ingram, the new residents. Ruth is even more amazed by all the work when John extends an invitation to come inside. John offers Ruth a ride to the bus stop as she heads out, feeling compassionate towards Ruth. After discovering that John is a corporate attorney, Ruth informs him about her hunt for Katie and he decides to assist her. John soon discovers the reality about Ruth's past, though. Ruth says she's sorry for lying, but John still accepts her case. Ruth is performing her second job at a construction site when Steve enters and strikes up a brief conversation with Ruth. Steve is unknown to Ruth. Ruth says that her parents are deceased when Steve brings up the subject. Ruth says, "Life moves on," in response to Steven's apology. As Ruth departs, Steve stays behind and digs through Ruth's possessions. When he comes upon a picture of Katie, he realizes that Katie actually exists. John realizes where Katie and her family are. He contacts the Malcolms' parents, Michael and Rachel, who grudgingly agree to meet Ruth in private. Ruth learns during the conversation that Michael and Rachel purposefully kept her identity from Katie and suppressed every letter she sent to Katie while she was incarcerated. They caution Ruth that it's better for her if Katie doesn't remember or know anything about her. The Malcolms furiously storm out of the room when Ruth loses control of her emotions. The letters are found by Emily, Katie's younger adoptive sister, after she overhears her parents discussing Ruth. Emily is moved to tears as she reads Ruth's words and is both touched and moved by them. Emily decides to get in touch with Ruth and set up a meeting in order to assist Ruth find the calm she so desperately wants and to get the questions she's been reading in the letters answered. After their encounter, Emily tells Ruth that Katie has a rehearsal later on that day at a nearby theater. Steve follows Emily back to her house as she leaves and learns her address. Ruth visits the Ingrams' house once more. She wants to talk to John because she will now have a chance to meet Katie at the rehearsal and she wants to get his advice, but he is not at home. When Liz sees Ruth coming, she becomes enraged and urges her to leave since she doesn't see what her husband does in her. In flashbacks, it is revealed that Katie, a 5-year-old, actually fired the shot that killed the sheriff, but Ruth accepted responsibility and went to prison to shield her. After discovering the truth, Liz feels sorry for Ruth and offers to take her to the performance. After finding out about Katie, Steve becomes more determined to exact revenge. However, he finds his brother Keith having a sexual relationship with his wife and beats him before leaving the house. He kidnaps Emily, thinking she is Katie, driven by his rage. Ruth gets a call from Steve demanding that she come to where they are as she arrives at the recital. Liz drives her there and as Ruth enters, she realizes something is wrong and phones the police. Steve says he wants to kill the girl, but when Ruth apologizes for everything that has transpired, he changes his mind. Ruth assists Emily in leaving the room, then cooperates with the authorities, resulting in Steve's arrest. Ruth is freed soon after Vince arrives on the scene. Ruth discovers that Emily's parents and Katie have arrived to take up Emily as she and Vince start to leave. Ruth and Katie then finally cross paths and embrace. Anyway, that's all for today's video. We hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to press the like button if you did, as well as subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to support us, and stay tuned for more.